जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यमुना तीरवनचारी। यमुना तीरवनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद। श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जय राधा गोकुलानंद, राधा गोकुलानंद राधे। राधा गोकुलानंद, राधा गोकुलानंद राधे। जय गौरनिताय जय, गौरनिताय जय, गौरनिताय जय, गौरनिताय। गौरनिताय Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Jayom Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivrajakaacharya Stotra Sat His Divine Grace Abhay Charanar Vinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Dwarka Puri Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Vraj Bhumi Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Yuga Dharma Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Ki Jai Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vande Ham Shri Guru Shri Yudapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. I am very happy to be with all the devotees of the Marthahalli Center in Bangalore. I have many fond memories of my visits to your small but very beautiful center with so many sincere devotees. I do hope that all of you are keeping well and safe in the midst of this pandemic, and that you are utilizing your time well in the lockdown by engaging in increased Krishna conscious activities. Also, a word of welcome to the devotees who are on Facebook. So, today I will discuss a verse from the celebrated Mukunda Mala Stotra of the great devotee Kulashekar. Srila Prabhupada spoke about King Kulashekar often, and He also cited some verses from the Mukunda Mala Stotra in his lectures and also sometimes in his purports. He also commented or wrote purports for some of the verses of this wonderful composition, Mukunda Mala Stotra. Unfortunately, he could not complete the purports, but then the later verses were offered purports by His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj. So today I will read from the second verse of the Mukunda Mala Stotra. So Mukunda, of course, as you know, is Krishna. Mala means a garland, and Stotra means a verse of glorification. So King Kulashekar has strung together a beautiful garland of verses glorifying Lord Mukunda or Lord Krishna. So each of these verses is full of devotion and rasa and full of nectarian transcendental mellow. These verses reflect the depth and the sweetness of the devotion that the king had for Lord Krishna within his heart. So the second verse is as follows. Those of you who have access to the Mukunda Mala Stotra in front of you, either the hard copy or you could perhaps get a soft copy on your computer or your phone, you may please refer to this verse, the second verse of the Mukunda Mala Stotra. Jayatu Jayatu Devo Devakinandanoyam Jayatu Jayatu Krishno Vrishnivansha Pradipaha Jayatu Jayatu Megha Shyamalah Komalango Jayatu Jayatu Prithvi Bharanasho Mukundaha. I'll say that again. Jayatu Jayatu Devo Devaki Nandanoyam Jayatu Jayatu Krishno Vrishnivansha Pradipaha Jayatu Jayatu Megha Shyamalah Komalango Jayatu Jayatu Prithvi Bharanasho Mukundaha. Srila Prabhupada's translation. All glories to this personality of Godhead, known as the son of Srimati Devaki Devi. All glories to Lord Sri Krishna, the brilliant light of the Vrishni dynasty. All glories to the personality of Godhead, the hue of whose soft body resembles the blackish color of a new cloud. All glories to Lord Mukunda, who removes the burdens of the earth. So this verse is a glorification. The word Jayatu Jayatu indicates all glories to, all glories to. So in the 4 lines of this verse, King Kulashekara has glorified different aspects of Krishna's personality or nature or qualities. And each time he begins by saying Jayatu Jayatu, all glories, all glories. So the process of glorification of the Lord is the standard method for developing and furthering our pure love of God. And the glorification of the Lord is called Kirtan. So, Kirtan means the broadcasting or the repetition or the chanting of the Kirti or the glories of the Lord. So, the glories of the Lord are variegated in nature. So, they are found in His the description of His qualities, His transcendental sublime qualities. They are found in the narration of His nectarian pastimes, They are found in the descriptions of his abode and of his pure devotees, and also principally in the chanting of his names. After all, what are the names of Krishna? And this is a topic that is quite connected to the verse today. The names of Krishna are nothing but the glorification of Krishna, because every name of Krishna has a meaning. You know, names must have meanings. Today one finds that there are many instances in which parents give their children names that have absolutely no meaning. The ideal thing is to name children after Krishna or some great devotees. However, if that is not done, at least it should be something that is culturally a little sublime, that indicates some nice quality or something like that. But if you give a name that is absolutely meaningless, then that doesn't make any sense. Also, the important reason for naming children after Krishna is because not only the family members, but so many other people who know that person will repeat the name of the Lord again and again and again throughout the lifetime of that person and even later. So therefore, the names of Krishna are very meaningful. And what do they mean? Who gives the name to Krishna? Generally, the names are given by our elders, mostly our parents, and maybe other elders in the family and so on. So, Krishna is the father and mother of all living entities. He is the origin of the entire creation, spiritual as well as material. So when he is the original father of everything and everyone, then who can possibly be his father and mother? And who can then possibly give him a name? But Krishna is not just an emotionless, mellow-less, relationship-less absolute truth. He is called Akhila Rasamrita Murtihi by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Nectar of Devotion or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Akhila Rasamrita Murti, the word Murti indicates the form. So Lord Krishna is a form of what? Amrita Murti, of nectar. What is that nectar? What kind of nectar is it? Rasa. It is a nectar of transcendental mellows, of the transcendental bliss that is derived from spiritual relationships of love on the spiritual realm. And there are many such rasas. So the word Akhila indicates the completeness of all the possible transcendental mellows that the Lord experiences in relation with his pure devotees. So therefore he is called Akhila Rasamrita Murtihi. So each of his names reflects either some pastime of Krishna or some quality of Krishna, etc. For example, Krishna is called Bhakta Vatsala. So it is a quality of Krishna that indicates that he is very affectionate to his devotees. Or Krishna's name is, let us say, Mukunda, because he grants liberation to his devotees. Krishna is called Shyama Sundara because he has the quality of the beauty. And this we'll discuss in the verse as we go on. He is called Gopal because his pastime, his eternal pastime, is of tending the cows. So in this way, Krishna has infinite transcendental pastimes and activities. He has infinite transcendentally beautiful qualities, and therefore naturally he has an infinite number of names. each of which are transcendently relishable by the pure devotees. Because when one chants these names of Krishna, and because Krishna is absolute and he's not different from his names, so one actually relishes the presence of Krishna. And one can also, by understanding and reflecting on the meaning of the name of Krishna that one is chanting, one can also experience some happiness, some transcendental happiness. So when one chants Krishna's name as Gopal, for example, then one can immediately picture Krishna tending the cows in Goloka Vrindavan. When one takes Krishna's name as Shyama Sundara, then one can see him with a blackish blue complexion, extremely beautiful, standing in Vrindavan. So in this way, Krishna is given names by his devotees, even though he doesn't have any superiors from a philosophical point of view. But in transcendental rasa, there is no such consideration. So the devotees try to glorify Krishna by giving him an unlimited number of names. And in order to relish these transcendental rasas, Krishna forms a variety of relationships with his devotees in different moods, in different mellows, which are called rasas. So therefore, he also wants to relish the mood of parental affection from someone who in that relationship is superior to him. Even though from one point of view nobody can be superior to Krishna, but Krishna loves to have his pure devotees in a position superior to himself. And then he loves to be admonished by these superiors. He loves to be protected and cared for and fondled and so on by these superiors. So he accepts the position of the child of some exalted devotees. So those exalted devotees take on the position of being the father or the mother of Krishna. So in Vrindavan, the eternal father and mother of Krishna are Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. In Mathura and Dwarka, the father and mother of Krishna are Vasudev and Devaki. So in this way, the Lord, in all his different appearances, the human-like appearances, has parents, he has friends, etc. And he relates to all of them. And therefore, he is also named in terms of his relationships with these devotees in the different rasas. So here in the first line of this verse, King Kulashekara says, Jayatu Jayatu Devo Devaki Nandanoyam. Devaha means the Lord. So all glories to that Lord, who is known as Devaki Nandana. So Srila Prabhupada translates this as all glories to the personality of Godhead, known as the son of Srimati Devaki. So Prabhupada emphasizes the point here that actually who can be Krishna's mother or Krishna's father? So therefore he is known as Mother Devaki's son. There's a beautiful part in the purport which I would like to cite here. One may ask, Srila Prabhupada says, since the Supreme Lord is the original father of all living entities, how could a lady known as Devaki give birth to him as her son? And then Prabhupada says, the answer is that Devaki no more gave birth to the Lord than the eastern horizon gives birth to the sun. In other words, the horizon doesn't give birth to the sun. The sun appears at the eastern horizon at some point in time for a person located at some point on earth. For other people on earth, the sun is not rising at the horizon at that precise moment. The sun is elsewhere as far as that other person is concerned. But after some time, then the sun rises for somebody at some other point on earth. In this way, it is a question of perspective. The sun is in its own place in the universe. The sun is not born from the horizon. So similarly, Krishna is eternally in Goloka Vrindavan, and he repeatedly manifests within the material world on the horizon, so to speak, and appears as the son of Mother Devaki or as the son of Mother Yashoda. So Prabhupada continues the purport and says, in the same way the Lord exists, but for his pastimes as a human being, he seems to take birth like an ordinary child, just to make his pastime of appearance and his childhood pastimes more relishable for himself and for his devotees. He takes on this role. He accepts parents. So he becomes completely dependent on his parents, just as any child would be dependent on its parents. And similarly, the parents, being completely overwhelmed by Yogamaya, they also think of Krishna as their son. And they also look after him, care for him, protect him, feed him, clothe him, as if he were just another child. In the end of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the last chapter, there is a very famous verse that Shukadev Goswami speaks. We don't have time to go into the entire verse, but I'll just chant the first line. Jayati Jay. Sorry, there's a train that's going by here. We are near a railway station. Jayati Jananivaso Devaki Janmavado Yaduvar Parishat Swairdo Bhirasyana Dharmam Sthirachara Vrijinagnaha Susmita Shri Mukhena Vrajapura Vanitanam Vardhayan Kamadevam. So in the first line of this verse, he says, Jayati Jananivaso Devaki Janmavado. He says, all glories to that Supreme Personality of Godhead who is Jananivasa. Nivasa means a shelter or refuge. So all glories to that Supreme Personality of Godhead who is a refuge of all the jana, of all the people, all the living entities of this world. He is known Devaki Janma Vada. Vada means there is a kind of a, shall we say, an opinion. So it is opined. So it is said that he took birth from Devaki. Devaki Janma Vadaha. Janma means birth. So it is said that he took birth from Mother Devaki. So again a similar thing, that actually who can be Krishna's mother or father? So therefore it is said. So Krishna accepts this position for the sake of his pastimes. So this is how we can understand the term Devaki Nandanoyam. Jayati Jayati Devo Devaki Nandanoyam. So all glories to Krishna, who is the son of Mother Devaki, who is known as the son of Mother Devaki. Then next, Kulashekara says, Jayatu Jayatu Krishna Vrishni Vansha Pradipaha. So, Vrishni Vansha, the Vrishni dynasty, is the dynasty in which Krishna appeared. And Pradipa means the light. So he is the light of the Vrishni dynasty. The Vrishni dynasty has become glorified because Krishna has appeared in that dynasty. Srila Prabhupada explains at various places that generally if a person is born into a distinguished family, then he or she becomes famous by virtue of that birth. even before that person has grown up enough to display any extraordinary activities and become famous in his or her own right, that person becomes already celebrated because of having taken birth in that illustrious family. So this is the material situation. However, as far as Krishna is concerned, it is a dynasty that that becomes glorified because Krishna appears in that dynasty. So this is a very important point. Krishna doesn't need to be glorified by anybody else. Krishna's qualities are so sublime, so attractive, that automatically whoever he comes in touch with in some way, shape or form becomes glorified also. So if Krishna comes in touch with the person, that person becomes a devotee and that person becomes glorified. If Krishna touches a particular place, that place becomes glorified and is known as a holy place. So in this way, if Krishna appears in a certain dynasty, then that dynasty becomes glorified. So Krishna's taking birth from a mother and in a dynasty indicates, as Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, that he is a person. And the next 2 points that King Kulashekar is going to make in this verse will very strongly reinforce this point. Krishna's being a person is one of the fundamental cornerstones of our theology or philosophy. There is no question of doing bhakti yoga, or loving Krishna unless one accepts his transcendental personality. If one merely thinks that Krishna is the absolute truth, yes, but actually Krishna came from some impersonal Brahman, from some spiritual light, which then manifested a form, and that form is known as Krishna or Ram. So Krishna is, yes, God, Ram is God, but ultimately they emanate from that impersonal light. So if that is the kind of conception one has, then that is of course wrong, and there is no question of then rendering devotional service to Krishna. There is no question of true love. So understanding that God or the absolute truth is ultimately a transcendental person is very, very foundational or very fundamental to our belief or our faith as devotees. So Krishna is everywhere, as Srila Prabhupada says here. He is in his impersonal feature, he is everywhere. He is inside the atom, he is outside, he is everything, and there is nothing, there is no place that is not in contact with Krishna. There is no place where he is not present, either personally or through his transcendental energies. Srila Prabhupada refers in his purport to some misconceptions that many people have about Krishna. He says, there are some people who take him to be a superhuman being born with a material body. So what is the mistake these people make? First of all, they think that he has a material body. And since he is doing some extraordinary activities, he must have had some superhuman powers. But he is nevertheless a human being, and he has a material body. But he is superhuman. Some kind of a Superman, an ancient version of a Superman. That is their conception. That is naturally wrong. Another conception that Srila Prabhupada talks about here is that they think of him as a historical person, yes, but he is worshipped as God. So it is the worshippers of that person who elevate Krishna from the status of a human being to the status of being God. Under the influence of, Srila Prabhupada says, anthropomorphism or zoomorphism. Anthropomorphism means to impart divinity to some human. Or zoomorphism is to impart divinity to some animal. Of course, we know that the Lord comes as Shukara. He comes as the tortoise also. Shukara means the boar. He comes in the form of a boar, he comes in the form of a tortoise, as a horse, as a swan, sometimes as a half lion and a half man. So he comes in all these different forms. And he also appears in fully human-like forms. So there are people who argue that because the devotees of Krishna believe all these forms are Krishna, so that is a kind of an anthropomorphism or a zoomorphism, which means actually Matsya and Kurma, etc., they're just animals and fish and so on, but they have been elevated to the status of God by these devotees. Similarly with Krishna, Ram, and so on. And there are, of course, innumerable other misconceptions about Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada says, it is only persons with a poor fund of knowledge who think like this. It is because of their not understanding true spiritual knowledge that they think like this. It's a very long purport, so I will not have time to discuss the whole thing. And then he comes again to Vasudeva and Devaki and says, they are the confidential devotees of the Lord in the mood of parental love. Even greater than them are Nanda and Yashoda, his foster parents in Vrindavan. The Lord takes great pleasure in being addressed as Devaki Nandana, the son of Devaki. Nanda Nandana, the son of Nanda. Yashoda Nandana, the son of Yashoda. Dasharathi, the son of King Dasharath. Janaki Nath, the husband of Janaki, and so on. And this is the important point. Please hear this. The pleasure one gives the Lord by addressing him by such names is many, many times greater than the pleasure he enjoys when he is addressed as the Supreme Father, the greatest of the great, Parameshwar, or anything of that nature, which indicate volumes of awe and veneration. Therefore, the names King Kulashekar uses to glorify the Lord in this verse indicate his intimate, transcendental relationship with the Lord. You see, when your relationship with somebody is a little distant, is somewhat formal, then you will address that person in a respectful way. As sir or madam or whatever, Srimati or Shriman or whatever it may be. And there will be some titles. So one doesn't directly go and address somebody by the first name when that person is in a very respectable position. So it depends on the nature of one's relationship with that person. However, let's say that respectable person's mother, will not address that person in the same respectful way that we as ordinary people would address that person. She will address him as she has always addressed him, as her son. Similarly, the children or the friends and the wife and so on, they will address him in a different way because they have a more personal and a more intimate relationship with that person. So Srila Prabhupada is indicating here that the fact that King Kulashekar is addressing the Lord by such intimate names in terms of his transcendental relationships with his pure devotees indicates that King Kulashekar also had that kind of an intimate relationship with the Lord. That is why instead of glorifying the Lord merely as the Father of the creation or as the Lord of all, the mightiest of the mighty and so on, he is addressing Krishna by these more personal names. That is not to say that he or other devotees don't address Krishna as the Father of all and so on. They may at times, but more relishable to the devotees are the names of the Lord that reflect his very sweet, sublime, transcendental relationships with his pure devotees. So Srila Prabhupada says, as explained above, all the names of the Lord are as powerful as the Lord himself. But one can experience different transcendental mellows by chanting his different transcendental names. So this is an important point for us as practical, as sadhakas or as practitioners. If we also want to develop a transcendental loving relationship with Krishna, we must also learn to address the Lord by his more intimate names. By so doing, we will also develop more intimate love for Krishna. In the Harinam Chintamani and in other books as well, it is explained that the Supreme Lord has two types of names. There are primary names and there are secondary names. So the secondary names are those that relate to Krishna's opulence, his power, and so on. Like I said, quoted here, Paramatma, or the Father of all, and so on and so forth, the Almighty One. So these are somewhat formal forms of address. However, the primary names are very sweet and intimate, like Gopi Jana Vallabha, one who is very dear to the gopis, or Gopala, the tender of the cows, and so on. So, by addressing the Lord merely by his secondary names is not something that can easily bring about love of God. It can give us liberation, Haridas Thakur says. But if one wants to go even beyond liberation and come to the platform of pure love of God, which is the perfected stage of liberation, then one should practice and become perfect in the art and method of reciting and chanting and remembering the primary names of Krishna, which are connected to his beautiful nectarian pastimes in Vrindavan especially, and also those that reflect his intimate relationships with his devotees. So then coming to his appearance, as he says here, Jayatu Jayatu Megha Shyamalah Komalango. So all glories to that Supreme Lord who is Megha Shyamalah Komalango. Anga, he has an anga, he has a body first of all. And that body is komala, it is tender. It is not hard and tough like, let's say, a muscular bodybuilder or something like that. In the early days of the movement, when Srila Prabhupada asked his disciples to paint, those devotees who were skilled in painting, and one of the devotees started painting Giridhari, Krishna lifting the Govardhan hill. And this devotee, who was very new at that time, assumed in her mind that if someone has to lift the Govardhan hill, which is a mountain, so he must be very powerful. And in order to be powerful, one must be very muscular, one must have muscle power. So she made Krishna quite muscular. And Srila Prabhupada laughed and said, that's not how Krishna is. Krishna is ever like an adolescent. And he is not muscular, although he is the strongest of the strong. He is the origin of all possible strength. But nevertheless, he appears only like a tender adolescent boy. His body is also soft and tender. Komalango. And what is the color of his body? Megha Shyamalaha. Shyamala refers to something that is darkish, blackish. What kind of darkness or blackness is referred to here? Megha. Megha means a cloud. What kind of a cloud? Not just any cloud, because there are sometimes clouds that are completely white in color, which you can see in the sky. But this is a special kind of cloud that is a freshly formed monsoon cloud. As Jayadev Goswami has explained, Abhinava Jaladhara Sundara He. So Krishna is Sundara, he is beautiful, and his complexion, how is that? Abhinava Jaladhara. Jala means water, dhara means to hold. So the word Jaladhara is a poetic way of indicating a cloud. Abhinava means something that is freshly formed or newly formed, new. So a freshly formed monsoon cloud has a certain tinge of color. So that color is indicative of Krishna's complexion. Of course, Srila Prabhupada points out in many places, and here also, that, let me read that section. The Brahma Samhita confirms that the color of the Lord's body is blackish, like that of a new cloud. But this blackish color is so beautiful that it surpasses the beauty of millions of cupids. So this blackish color does not correspond to any blackish color in the material world. So on one hand, we are told, and Prabhupada mentions here, that Krishna's complexion is like the blackish color of a new cloud. And then he says that it does not correspond to any blackish color in the material world. So how are we to reconcile these two apparently conflicting statements? And the answer is that there is something called a figure of speech in English, and in Sanskrit there is a word called Shakha Chandranyaya. Srila Prabhupada explains this as follows, that when a mother sometimes wants to point out to her baby, her child, the moon, and the child is looking here and there in the sky and can't figure out. So the mother goes to a point where the moon is visible between two branches, and then she points out and says, look between these two branches, there is the moon. Now actually the moon is not within the two branches. The moon is very far away. But for the sake of convenience, so that the child may understand and see, she points it out like that. So similarly, these analogies, these figures of speech that appear very often in devotional literature in Sanskrit are meant to be indicative, because we only have experience of this world. We do not have any living memory of experience of any other world. So therefore, if we are to understand something beyond this world, all we have with us is examples and analogies of this world. So we get some indication. We don't get a complete picture or a realization, but we get some indication. That is the point. So therefore, we have to understand both these things together, that Krishna's complexion is like that of a freshly formed monsoon cloud, and we simultaneously have to understand that this blackish color of Krishna is not like the blackish color in this world. It is a transcendental blackish color, something that we will actually experience only when we reach a certain very, very exalted state of Krishna consciousness. Similarly, in the third line, he has also, in the next line, he has also said, by the way, when the body is soft and tender, that is also one of the symptoms of a great personality. Srila Prabhupada mentions here, also his body is very soft. Softness of the body is a sign of a great personality. The Shastras state that the following bodily features indicate a great personality: a reddish luster in 7 places, the eyes, the palms, the soles, the palate, the lips, the tongue, and the nails. Broadness in 3 places, the waist, the forehead, and the chest. Shortness in 3 places, the neck, the thighs, and the genitals. Deepness in 3 places, the voice, the intelligence, and the navel. Highness in 5 places, the nose, the arms, the ears, the forehead and the thighs, and fineness in 5 places: the skin, the hair on the head, the bodily hair, the teeth, and the fingertips. All these features are present in the body of the Lord. So then Prabhupada concludes by saying, such descriptions of the Lord are not imaginary. Rather, they are the statements of those who have seen the Lord with supernatural vision. This supernatural vision is bestowed upon devotees like Brahma and upon those who follow the footsteps of pure devotees like him. But upstarts and unbelievers cannot have access to this transcendental vision, for they lack the required submission to the will of the Lord. So very, very beautifully explained by Srila Prabhupada. In the last line of the verse, of course, King Kulashekar says, Jayatu Jayatu Krishna, he says, Prithvi Bhara Nasho Mukunda. He is Mukunda, the deliverer of liberation, and he is Prithvi Bhara Nasha. Prithvi means the earth, Bhara means the burden of sinful people, the burden of sins, etc. And Nasha means destroyer. So he is the destroyer of all the sinful elements. So in the other verse that I quoted, Jayati Jananivaso Devaki Janmavado Yaduvar Parishat Swair Dorbir Asya Dharmam. So the Swair Dorbir Asya Dharmam means, adharmam means that it refers to people who are adharmic, who are irreligious, who are miscreants, who create a disturbance on this planet. So what does he do? Swair Dorbir Asyan, he subdues or destroys such mischievous elements who create a disturbance in the society with his mighty arms. So in that sense, he's also the destroyer of the mischievous elements on the earth. Srila Prabhupada there also mentions that the arms of Krishna can also indicate his agents and his pure devotees and representatives like Arjuna. For example, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, it was Arjuna who got the credit for being such a valiant warrior, and he was in large part responsible for the victory of the Pandavas in the battle. Ultimately, of course, it was Krishna, but Arjuna played a very crucial role in the battle and in the victory of the Pandavas eventually. So, Asena Dharmam, this destruction of the sinful people and the reduction of the burden of the earth, is accomplished sometimes by Krishna with his own hands, Swair Dorbir, and sometimes through the instrumentality of his great devotees and representatives. In this way, Krishna comes time to time on this earth personally, and sometimes he empowers his devotees to perform these acts on his behalf. And thus he reduces the burden of the earth and creates a favorable situation for those who are submissive to his will, who abide by his orders, and who devotedly serve him with great love. So in this way, King Kulashekar has glorified Krishna in this beautiful verse. So it is 10 o'clock, so we'll stop here. Are there any questions? You can type your questions so that I can read them here. Okay, someone has put on the verse, Jayatu Jayatu Devo Devaki Nandano Yam. Very nice. Yes, one question is, many prayers in Srimad Bhagavatam indicate the Lord with indirect names or the secondary names. Okay, yes, that's a fact. as I mentioned, that the devotees may also often use these secondary names to glorify Krishna, just to give a complete understanding of who he is. But nevertheless, we are talking in particular about those devotees who have developed a very intimate relationship with him, and especially for those who love him in the mood of Vrindavan. So, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is majorly in the 10th canto that, in a certain portion of the 10th canto, that we see the pastimes in the mood of Vrindavan being described. It is in Vrindavan that the relationships of the devotees with Krishna are the sweetest and the most intimate, and therefore the predominance of these primary sweet names are to be found in relation to Vrindavan and the devotees who love Krishna in that mood, or who wish to love Krishna in that mood. Devotees who love Krishna in the moods of Vaikuntha or Dwarka and so on, they will naturally have a predominance of names that may be a little formal or may be related to the material world in terms of creator of the world and so on. And in most devotees, there will be a mixture of both. So your question is, should we choose some prayers or pray all of them? Certainly, because the Srimad Bhagavatam is our ultimate scripture, so definitely we can and should recite all these prayers. But as followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we can also give special emphasis to the mood of Vrindavan and the prayers and the names that are in connection with Vrindavan. Okay? Okay, the next question is, can devotees recite the Krishna Ashtottaram daily as they talk about all the names related to Krishna's pastimes? Or is there a better way to remember his pastimes daily? Well, definitely one can recite any of the names, bona fide names of Krishna, wherever they may appear, but our special preference is for those prayers and those names that have been especially recommended to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our parampara, and especially Srila Prabhupada. And so, whilst we can certainly by all means recite these other names and other prayers, our focus should be on these prayers, the other prayers that I mentioned. Is Jagannath a primary name? Good question. It depends on your mood of how you see Jagannath. If you're going to see Jagannath, if your conception of Jagannath is just as a formal, impersonal power that is the Lord of the universe, then definitely it is not a primary name. But for followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jagannath represented or is not just some informal or rather some impersonal power that is just related to the material world. The significance of Jagannath is very deep for Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We don't have enough time now to discuss that. But suffice it to say that the conception in the mood in which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers chants Jagannath's names indicates that it is definitely a kind of a primary name for us. Okay, the next question, how to develop determination in Krishna consciousness staying at home? The answer is to keep connection with Krishna on a regular basis as much as possible through all the means possible. Srila Prabhupada has given us the chanting of the holy names, our japa, our kirtan. We can do that at home. Srila Prabhupada has given us all these wonderful books, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, and so on. So we should study these books every day regularly. We should worship at home the beautiful forms of the Lord. You can have either photographs or pictures of the deities, or if you already have deities, then fine. So you can worship them. You can hear the lectures of the Lord in connection with the Lord. Nowadays you can use technology for this purpose. You can keep in touch with devotees of the Lord and exchange realizations, discuss Shastra and philosophy with them. So in this way, you can keep yourself enthusiastic in Krishna consciousness even at home. Okay, the question is, could you please repeat the high, low, soft, hard, etc. points of the Lord's description? So, instead of repeating it because it's quite long, I can just tell you to refer to the book. Maybe that's a good reason for you to look up this book, Mukunda Mala Stotra. It's on page 15. It is somewhat towards the end of Srila Prabhupada's purport. So you look there and you'll find the description there. Okay, the next question here is, when one is trying to get connected with Lord Krishna, why is the mind getting diverted? The answer is because the mind has been accustomed for so many millions and millions of lifetimes to being diverted, to not being focused on Krishna. So old habits die hard, and these habits have formed not just for a few months or years, but for millions of lifetimes. So naturally it is hard for the mind to suddenly change and become focused when we try to discipline it. But we have to continue with the process of Krishnaizing the mind by the process of hearing and chanting. Next question. In Srimad Bhagavatam, generally elevated devotees worship Vishnu and not Krishna, like Prahlad Maharaj. Even Devaki and Vasudev did tapasya for Vishnu. Are they not aware that Vishnu came from Krishna? How to understand this? As I explained earlier, there are different moods that different devotees embody. Those devotees who have a relatively distant understanding of Krishna, they will address Krishna and relate to him in a slightly formal way. So Vishnu or Narayan in Vaikuntha is the slightly formal, or you could say an official form of the Lord. Not really official, but in the sense that the devotees, they worship him with awe and veneration. In Vrindavan, however, this awe and veneration is absent, because the devotees there are very intimately related and have a very sweet personal relationship with him. So it is only in Vrindavan Leela that one finds connection with Krishna in this mood. In the first 9 cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is mostly just Vaikuntha mood. Now that's not a bad thing. Let's not misunderstand Vaikuntha to be bad. It's supremely pure. It is so exalted. It is a place of pure devotion. We are only talking in relation to Vrindavan, which is even more supreme, even more perfect. Vaikuntha is perfect, Dwarka and Mathura, they are more perfect, and Vrindavan is most perfect, as per Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. So Vaikuntha is indeed perfect, but the mood there being in awe and veneration, that mood is reflected in the first 9 cantos, even in prayers of Prahlad Maharaj and Bhishma and Dhruva Maharaj. These are all devotees in the Vaikuntha mood. So their affinity is for Lord Narayan. So therefore they will pray like that. Okay, the next question. If Brahma is Jiva Tattva, then how does he create sons without accepting a female counterpart? Well, you see, Brahma is a Jiva, yes, but he's not an ordinary Jiva like us. He is an immensely powerful, empowered, capable and intelligent Jiva. He is the most intelligent Jiva in the whole universe. He is especially empowered by Krishna. And he is the one who is directly born of Krishna. So he is called Swayambhu. He is one who did not have a mother, material mother or father, Brahma himself, because he is born from the lotus that comes out of the stem that emanates from the navel of the Lord Vishnu. So he is a very special personality. He doesn't have an ordinary father and mother like we do. So therefore, his father, Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, empowers him with such capability and with such a kind of a body, which even though material is extremely, shall we say, extraordinary. It is capable of doing things that our gross body on the earth planet is incapable of doing. So therefore, Brahma is able to generate personalities from his mind and from the various parts of his body, because his body is extremely subtle and fine, and it has the capability to do all these things. Okay? How to prepare our mind to chant japa nicely in the morning? Well, it starts from the previous night. And you wake up, as soon as you wake up, maybe I can discuss this on another occasion, what to do immediately upon waking up. Well, one must chant Krishna's names, and immediately after rising early in the morning, one must chant Krishna's names and then take a bath and then start doing one's japa with attention. So I pray to Krishna very fervently in order to be able to chant properly. Is Queen Kunti also in the Vaikuntha mood? Also the Pandavas? Yes, they are in the Dwarka mood. Dwarka is somewhat in between Vaikuntha and Vrindavan. There is more sweetness than Vaikuntha, but less sweetness than Vrindavan. Okay? So, all right. So, I think we will stop here. And best wishes to all of you, those who are on the Zoom from Bangalore, and also for those who are on the Facebook. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your time.
Okay. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.